Tonight, statue down. Virginia removes the country's largest Confederate monument from its Richmond pedestal. And the new Taliban, same as the old Taliban? And the fate of those remaining in Afghanistan, including the plight of Christians. Plus,
it's hard to compete with free money right now.
What expiring pandemic-era unemployment benefits mean for millions of Americans.
Getting a job has never been an issue. It's what do I do with the kids when they get off at school at 4 until 7 o'clock when I get home from work.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Ready on the runway, but still unable to escape the Taliban's Afghanistan. Welcome to Faith Nation, and good evening. I'm John Jessup. Yet another day, and the militant terror group still has a fleet of charter planes ready and waiting to evacuate hundreds of people grounded. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Germany today toured Ramstein Air Base, a U.S. facility that's been a key gateway for those able to get out of Afghanistan. Speaking to reporters, Blinken blamed the Taliban for the holdup.
As of now, the Taliban are not permitting the charter flights to depart. They claim that some of the passengers do not have the required documentation. While there are limits to what we can do without personnel on the ground, without an airport, with normal security and procedures in place, we are working to do everything in our power to support those flights and to get them off the ground.
He stressed the Taliban must earn legitimacy over time, saying that comes through actions like letting people freely leave the country. While Afghanistan is in turmoil, could the war-torn country become the heart of revival in the Middle East? One ministry predicts that it may after working with the underground church there. As CBN's Caitlin Burke reports, even with the Taliban's efforts to squelch the message, Afghan Christians continue to live and spread the gospel.
As the new Taliban government tightens its grip on Afghanistan, people can plainly see the darkness of Islam spreading, and they're running toward the light.
As Job says, in the book of Job, he says, when a man is in a heap, on the ground, he stretches out his hand to God. And so it's in the midst of the desperation that souls are hungry. And so it's a moment of opportunity.
Joel Richardson with Global Catalytic Ministries says history proves that oppressive Islamic governance leads to revival in the church.
Iran has the fastest growing church in the world. 7 years after the ISIS blitzkrieg, there's a revival in northern Syria. The establishment of Islamic government provides ripe soil for the church to grow.
The church in Afghanistan is determined to do the same.
They're still actively meeting, studying the scriptures together, worshiping, and sharing the gospel. We actually have a report of one of our leaders who has been sharing the gospel with Taliban members that came into their village, and they've actually been engaging in Bible studies and prayer.
While it's often the sensational reports that make headlines, like a recent one that falsely claimed the underground church there had been martyred, or others that spotlight heroic action, Richardson says Afghanistan's Christians are just real people choosing to live out their Christian faith.
They say they're scared. Many of them are in despair, but it's in that weakness that they're still pushing forward, and they're finding sweetness in all of it.
One Afghan Christian recently reporting back to Global Catalytic Ministries, quote, "There is pain and joy right now. God hasn't left. There is no need to fear what the Taliban is doing. Yes, bad things may happen to us, but God will do something and glorify his name." Richardson worries this could be the calm before the storm, but he says Christians there have submitted themselves to the will of God, come what may.
They've given their future, their fate over to the Lord, knowing that it could result in martyrdom. They understand that very, very clearly, but yet they're pushing forward regardless.
The biggest prayer request right now is for divine protection. One Christian writing that they continue to remember the passage where Jesus' enemies are after him and he passes through a crowd and disappears. Divine camouflage. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. Well, joining me now is Jeff Reep. He is the father of a Marine who was one of the last military personnel to depart Kabul. Welcome to you, Jeff. And before we get too much further into the interview, we'd all like to extend our thanks to your son and his counterparts for their service. First off, as I understand, your son was just 100 yards from the location of the suicide bomber that killed 13 service members during the U.S. withdrawal, I believe, at the East Gate. I know your son is back home safely. Aaron, can you tell us what went through your mind watching the news that night?
Yeah, that was really a hard day and a half. You know, we had heard that, 13 Marines and I think one sailor, Navy person had been killed, and just not knowing was a little bit difficult, but we were able to find out the next day, and so very thankful that he was okay.
Jeff, curious, has he talked much or shared much about the way the United States government left Afghanistan?
No, not really. I mean, we have only really talked to him one time. He's still not actually back. He was on an emergency response unit on a Navy ship, and he flew in to the Kabul airport, that first group that went back in. And he said when they went in, they were actually going, their mission was to defend the capital. And he said within about an hour from the time they arrived, the capital had fallen. And so their whole mission changed 180 degrees to basically processing people and crowd control and that. So, that was the big change. And so, like I said, we really just haven't had a lot of chance to talk to him. So he'll be back hopefully in a couple of weeks here, from his actual deployment.
Jeff, you and your wife, Chris, what did you do at the time when you heard the news and you were still waiting to find out what was going on with your son?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just 100% confidence that he is in the Lord's hands, and just that the Lord is going to accomplish his purpose and his will is going to be done. And, I often continually think of the individual that did 2 tours in Iraq and got home and probably thought, oh, he's safe now, and ended up being killed by somebody texting on a country road, or the guy storming the beach of Normandy, and the bullet was lodged in the stock of his gun, like 2 inches one way or the other, and that individual would have been killed. So just sometimes when we think we're in safe territory, where maybe not be, and at the same time it could be in a very hostile situation, and the Lord could keep him safe. So I think that's the overriding confidence that we had at that time. But obviously a real concern, and just really encouraged by the number of people that came along and were praying for him and his guys, and so that was very much a help.
Jeff, as you were just sharing that story, I was reminded of Psalm 91. I know you and your family really lean on your faith, especially in the last couple of weeks. What advice would you offer to parents and loved ones who have service members who served in Afghanistan, if you can, real quickly?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I know in our situation, very sure that Aaron has confidence that that's where he's supposed to be and that's what he is supposed to be doing. And I think that's meant a lot. I think it's also meant a lot with his wife just being very supportive, all in for him actually at this time, even pursuing a career in the Marine Corps and to continue in that. And then just the prayer support of individuals in the community and church and just relatives that have really jumped in and prayed. That's been very helpful.
Jeff, we so appreciate your time. And again, we appreciate your son Aaron's service. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, an empty pedestal in Virginia's capital city is all that remains after the Commonwealth removed one of the largest Confederate monuments in the country to the cheering sounds of Richmond onlookers. The celebration continued as the 14-foot-tall bronze statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee was lifted off its nearly 50-foot-tall base. More than a year after ordering the 131-year-old statue removed, Governor Ralph Northam called the day historic.
I want to thank the city of Richmond, the people of Richmond, and people all across the Commonwealth for doing the right thing after 402 years of just history that we should not be proud of. This is a step in the right direction.
The contents of a time capsule buried within the pedestal in 1887 have not yet been revealed. There are now plans to place new artifacts in another capsule in the pedestal of the former Lee statue. Well, here with us now is Ray Suarez, veteran Washington journalist. Ray, always great to see you. To that Lee statue coming down historically, what's the significance?
You know, if you look for parallels, there aren't ones in other countries. To see a discredited cause, a defeated general from a defeated army from a non-existent country, celebrated in such a grand way in the former capital of what wanted to be a breakaway white supremacist republic. Robert E. Lee was a commissioned officer in the United States Army. He didn't take his oath as an officer to defend Virginia. He was trained at West Point. He served with the Army in Mexico, not to pursue Virginia's foreign policy, but that of the United States. He eventually turned his back on that country, on his oath, and went to serve his new country. When 25 years after the war was over, they put up that statue, it was just as much to remind people who was boss and who was still running the show in a country and a section of the country that was still deeply divided by the scars of that war.
Ray, you often hear things like Southern heritage and Southern pride, and some of the negative reaction to the removal of Confederate icons seems to be connected to the anti-woke or anti-CRT movement. Are those part of the discussion, or are these conflating issues?
Well, it's kind of a conflation. I mean, woke schmoke. That statue was put up in 1890, 25 years after the end of the war, and it is one of hundreds and eventually thousands of statues in front of courthouses and county councils around the South, meant to memorialize and celebrate and extol and praise an army that tried to break the country into pieces. It's not for nothing that Ulysses Grant called the cause of the war the cause which was one of the worst for which people ever fought, and one for which there was the least excuse. The country was in rubble in 1865. This is not a cause for celebration. It was meant just as much to show the freedmen of the South, who were now free after decades and centuries of bondage, that white people were still in charge.
Ray, we've seen movements like this in the past. They've been unsuccessful. So what triggered the successful removal this time?
I think there was an accumulating force of debates and arguments in small places, in counties, in sections of states, in front of particular public buildings across the South. It wasn't just this sudden convulsive spasm where Robert E. Lee comes down on Richmond's Monument Avenue. This is a dialogue that's been going on for a long time. What values do our public monuments represent? Who do they speak for? Whose values in a community do they speak for? Who are our heroes, and who gets to say so? This argument has been going on in Nashville and Louisville and Knoxville and New Orleans, all kinds of places. It culminates, in a way, in the capital of the Confederacy, Richmond, with the removal of this statue.
Real quickly, we have half a minute left. I really want to ask, for many, this, again, was a symbol of racism and white supremacy. Now that it's gone, does it mean that America has atoned for the sin of racism?
Not at all. It means that we're opening a conversation where we might be able to be a little bit more honest about it with ourselves and with each other. This is just one step in a very long march. I know a lot of people are going to be upset, and I know it's not the end of it, but Robert E. Lee coming down isn't a bad day.
All right, veteran Washington journalist Ray Suarez, we always appreciate your insights. Thanks for being with us today.
Great to be with you.
Coming up, private employers partnering with the White House to combat COVID-19. More on that and the debate over claiming a religious exemption to mask mandates when we return.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. a great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
Welcome back. The Biden White House is looking to the private sector to help contain the spread of COVID-19. Press Secretary Jen Psaki announcing today that President Biden plans to outline 6 steps for businesses, including imposing mask and vaccine mandates on employees.
He's going to outline the next phase in the fight against the virus and what that looks like, including measures to work with the public and private sector, building on the steps that we've already announced, the steps we've taken over the last few months, requiring more vaccinations, boosting important testing measures, and more, making it safer for kids to go to school.
The president's planned remarks come as the nation hits a vaccination milestone. More than 75% of American adults have had at least one shot. It also comes as the United States tops more than 40 million cases since the beginning of the pandemic, driven by a 4th wave of infections. And a new COVID mutation is emerging. The World Health Organization adding the Mu variant to its list, now detected in 49 states. Well, joining us now is Paul Miller. He is a professor of the practice of international affairs at Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. Paul, thank you for being with us on Faith Nation today. Private companies look to have the blessing of the White House when it comes to imposing mask and vaccine mandates, yet it seems reticent to impose any sort of federal mandate. Paul, could you see that happening at some point?
A federal mandate for masks, I think that it might happen. The CDC did change its recommendation over the summertime to recommend mask wearing because of the Delta variant. I'm not sure about a mandate, but I know that many employers and schools are moving in that direction.
Paul, some states and local jurisdictions allow religious exemptions to mask and vaccine mandates in the workplace. I know you co-authored a piece about whether Christians should claim a religious exemption from mask mandates with Andrew T. Walker. Can you explain your conclusion? I believe it was no.
That's right. We argued that we should not claim a religious exemption to mask mandates because we don't think that masks are part of religion. There are other grounds that we might have to oppose mask mandates, whether you think they're effective or ineffective or consistent with the Constitution or not. I'll leave that aside and just say that mask wearing is not part of our religion. Our religion is codified in the Bible and in the historic creeds of the Christian faith. And since that doesn't include comments for or against masks, we can't really claim a religious exemption for mask mandates.
So, Paul, is the thinking there that using mask mandate religious exemptions, does it water down real cases?
Real cases of violations of religious liberty? Yes, I do fear that if we invoke religious liberty, if we try to die on this hill, it could cheapen and trivialize religious liberty for things that truly do matter, that really do touch on our religious exercise. Let's remember that when the apostles disobeyed the authorities in Acts chapter 5, it was because the authorities commanded them to stop preaching the gospel. It was directly about their religion, about the ability to speak freely about the truth of the gospel. That's when we're allowed to disobey the authorities or claim a religious liberty exemption, not about wearing masks. So let's save our religious liberty claims for when it really matters.
Along those lines, you wrote about the biblical case for freedom. Can you explain a little bit more what you meant by that, and are there other valid exemptions or reasons to claim that kind of exemption?
Well, the biblical case for religious freedom is that God has made two separate institutions, the church and the state, with two separate jurisdictions. The church exists to mediate right worship of God, to speak in Jesus' name, and to disciple his people. The government exists to uphold public order. And so if the government tries to make laws about religious matters, those laws are invalid and we don't have to follow them. We have to follow the church's rules about our religion. It's pretty clear and pretty simple. And again, mask wearing isn't part of our religion, and so it does rightfully fall within the government's jurisdiction to make those kinds of laws. Again, I understand some people disagree with those laws. I just don't think that our religion is the basis on which to object to them.
All right. Paul Miller, professor of the practice of international affairs at Georgetown University School of Foreign Service. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you.
When we come back, how the phasing out of COVID-era government benefits could change the employment picture in America.
Before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire. Monday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Thursday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back. This week's termination of COVID-era federal aid dried up for millions of out-of-work Americans. Now that the expanded unemployment benefits are gone, will Americans start going back to work? CBN's Mark Martin has the story.
About 7 million people are affected by the loss of those unemployment benefits. Some economists say ending them is good for the economy because it will encourage more people to return to the workforce. The pandemic-related benefits for unemployed workers over the past 18 months include aid to self-employed and gig workers, benefits for those who have been unemployed for more than 6 months, and a federal $300 weekly supplemental unemployment check. Congress passed the much-needed aid after the country's unprecedented COVID shutdown last year, a move that killed jobs and threw the brakes on a strong economy. Single mother April Stokes, who hasn't worked full-time since last year, says the extra money kept her family afloat, citing affordable childcare as a major hurdle.
4 job interviews this week. Getting a job's never been an issue. It's what do I do with the kids when they get off at school at 4 until 7 o'clock when I get home from work.
Economist and former Trump economic advisor Steve Moore says the policies kept some from taking jobs.
Half of small businesses in America cannot get their workers back on the job. Enhanced food stamp benefits, increased payments to people for not working are making it very difficult for small businesses and medium-sized businesses.
Businesses like Davis Professional in Chesapeake, Virginia.
It's hard to compete with free money right now.
Owner Jerry Flug even rolled up his sleeves to help.
It's all hands on deck. Over the past couple weeks, we've jumped in the truck, cleaning carpets, stripping and waxing floors, whatever is needed to be done.
According to the Labor Department, there are still 5.7 million fewer jobs than before the pandemic. Still, for those willing and able to work, some 10 million jobs are open. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has encouraged states to use COVID relief money to keep the unemployment programs going, but none plan to do so. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Mark, coming up, the fury caused by McDonald's McFlurry, and why the government is stepping in.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls made
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Finally tonight, if you're a fan or you frequent McDonald's, this next story may be something for you. Have you ever wondered why their ice cream machines are always broken? Well, it's something the federal government is pondering as well. The dysfunctional machines cost franchisees a pretty penny while freezing customers' plans to indulge their fan-favorite dessert. Now, the Federal Trade Commission, is opening an investigation into why McDonald's ice cream machines never seem to be working. For its part, McDonald's says it understands the frustration and has a team working to get McFlurries, milkshakes, and cones back on track, and all those things sound good, especially this summer. Thank you so much for watching this edition of Faith Nation. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow.